Welcome back to another episode of the Growth Hacking Culture podcast. Today we are addressing a silent epidemic that is slowly eroding the foundations of our workforce and our personal lives. We are talking about the crisis of confidence. There is a growing perception among leaders that the modern workforce is becoming fragile, that we are becoming too sensitive to feedback, too anxious to lead, and too paralyzed by perfectionism. That happened to me. But is this actually weakness or is it a symptom of something much deeper that we are failing to diagnose? The numbers paint a worrying picture. According to the Journal of Behavioral Science, an estimated 70% of people experience imposter syndrome at some point in their lives. And perhaps most shockingly, CDC data reveals that 61% of adults impacted have been impacted by adverse childhood experience, ACE, traumas that rewire our brains for self-protection and self-criticism. We often try to fix these problems with mindset trainings or positive thinking. But what if the root cause isn't it in our conscious thoughts at all? What if the reason we are so critical of ourselves today is tied to an inner judge that was programmed into our unconscious mind decades ago? To help us explore this, I'm joined by Dr. Brian Alman. He is a world renowned expert in the unconscious mind and self healing, known as the doctor of last resort. He's here to help us understand why we are so hard on ourselves, why our childhood histories shows up in the boardroom, and how we can finally silence the inner judge to unleash our true potential. Thank you, Brian, for being with us today.
Thank you for inviting me out. And I'm happy to be here with you and your community and look forward to our lessons together.
Oh, thank you very much. By the way, so I'm curious. I have read a little bit about your work with True Sage, and you often speak about this inner judge, that critical voice drilled into us by social and family programming. Do you believe that this inner judge has become louder or more aggressive in recent years? If we compare it like today, the current generation, Generation Z, is at work, and we compare it with our generation, do you think it has become a little bit more present in our lives?
It's always been in our lives, it's always been a part of every culture in the world. Question yourself. Are you sure? Why would you do that? You know what you should do? So we're all raised with that should. And did you think about that? And why did you do that? And it gets in our heads, it gets in our emotions, it gets in our bodies. That inner judge, to put it really simply, Ivan, has a lifetime membership. It's been with all of us our whole lives since we're children, just growing up. It's been with our parents' parents, every culture from Peru to Switzerland to California, China. Every culture is raised with the shoulds and, oh, you didn't do that. And why did you do that? What were you thinking? So that inner judge gets integrated into all of us, and it is very strong. And everybody, I'll say 99% of people, but everybody we know, including ourselves, it's as strong as ever. Sometimes it's stronger, sometimes it quiets down a little bit. The most important thing, and we'll be talking about this and learning some skills, is to accept that it is a part of every one of us. And by the way, most people get stuck there. And the real master key is how to get unstuck. But you can stop trying to get rid of it. That's what most people in mental health, in coaching, in all the workshops, all the books, they try to help people get rid of that inner judge and inner critic. And what I'm saying to you is that is impossible because it has a lifetime membership.
Hmm. For me, it's easy to understand this is the part where the programming has always been there. Our parents have been really sometimes a little bit hard on us in order to be successful, and it is still that is still in the younger generations this uh, latence of parents pushing the kids. But Now, the question is, have the kids today become a little bit more sensitive? You know why? I don't have any proof about that, but what I'm noticing is that when I look at um, Generation Z having burnout, judging themselves, giving up uh, the workplace, the standard, the traditional workplace, because they don't feel good. I was wondering if something else hasn't influenced the how we feel about it. It's not the programming. The programming has always been there and has been always been painful for many of us. Uh, but is it influenced by our lifestyles? Now we spend a little bit more time, let's say, with digital, and digital is making our minds maybe going into this uh, autonomous mode without control. So, what is your
Right.
thought about that?
Well, it's what you're asking, Ivan, is very true. Growing up, we had a lot of people that influenced us: our teachers, our parents, our friends, our coaches. A lot of people influenced us. Now, and for the last 20 years, the influencers in people's lives are much more, from social media to friends online to people from all over the world that you'll never meet but you talk to on your phone. People are influenced by so many more people now, and the media has really played up the celebrities and their lifestyles. So we as a culture, and this is global, uh, there's just a lot more people influencing the younger generations than you and I had. Maybe we had, if we counted them, 10, 20 people influencing us. Now
Yeah.
people have 10, 20,000 people influencing them, and every day, because people are swiping and seeing so much. So it's all that influence that can tend to make us more sensitive and question ourselves, and even get to that inner judge and judge ourselves and judge others and become more judgmental of others, just because there's more of what every generation grew up with. Now there's just more of an abundance, and that increase in experience with more influencers is positive and negative. Yes, we're becoming more worldly. Yes, we're getting from the University of Life by learning from people from other countries and other continents that we never meet or never be influenced by. So there's a real positive growing aspect to social media. And there's also a repressive and frustrating and judging part. Like, I'm not as good as, I don't have that. I'm not doing all of those things I should be doing. So, like all new technology, like all new expansion in life, there is an upside and there's a downside.
Mm. But you're totally right. And now I totally see the point. It's almost like in the past we had just some fingers pointing at us in our head. And suddenly, if we add all of the fingers that are pointing to us because of social media, it becomes a little bit of an earthquake in our heads. So it's more powerful. These little
And it's
efforts.
both. It's both, Ivan. I mean, in some ways, we grow, we meet more people, we meet people we never meet. The younger generations have more friends in more countries than any other generation before them. But they also have people that are more critical, more haters, more disrespectful, more difficult. It's just, when you increase your friends by five people, you're going to have a lot more experiences. You increase your friends by 50 or more people, you're going to have a lot more. So again, there's a positive side and then there's a negative side. So it's up to the individual or their family or their community, their friends that are part of their inner circle that they relate to the most, to help each other understand, oh, you took that too hard. There's another way to look at that. What if you looked at it this way? How's that impacting you? How is what that person said impacting your life at work or in your relationships? And get people wondering and discussing what the impact is and how it's affecting their life on a daily basis or even long term. And those are the kinds of conversations that can be opened up that are really valuable if people are willing to talk about difficult things.
Hmm. I remember reading about you about your work, in fact, on the profound impact of adverse childhood experiences. These famous ACEs. By the way, I wasn't aware about that specific name. Uh, I'm not that good into human psychology. I mean, I haven't studied psychology, so that's why it becomes a little bit like a black box. My question to you is there an easy way to define what is adverse childhood experiences? And
Yes.
the second part of my question would be why corporations? So if we are talking about employees, why would they care about that? Because it is something that happened before these people joined. Why do they need to care?
Exactly. Well, think of it this way, Ivan. Uh, and I'll just tell you the adverse childhood experiences. I've been with that study since before it began. My partner is Dr. Vincent Folletti, who came up with the assessment, and he brought me in to come up with the treatment solutions because of all my books and a PhD and all my mind body healing experience. So I'm his trauma expert for the treatment solutions, and he is my trauma expert for the assessment. The assessment takes 10 minutes to answer. It's at my website that we built called truesage.com. It's free. Take you 10 minutes to answer the 12 questions. It'll help you for the rest of your life. But think of it this way, Ivan. Whether your adverse childhood experiences is from neglect of your dad because he worked too much, or from a critical mother or father that told you what you should be doing too much, or there was some kind of emotional or sexual abuse, things that are much more common, they're just not talked about. And more than half of people have been through adverse childhood experiences, traumas growing up, and they range from alcoholism in the family to negligence to sexual abuse to mental health issues. There's so many different causes, and we have that down to 12 questions. You answer the questions, then you get the treatment solutions. And the reason employers need to know about this is because, think of it this, Ivan, think of people as trees, and we all have rings of our lives, like a tree has rings of its life. Every tree has the first year. You can tell if a tree has been through drought, rain, whatever it's been through. You can see it in the rings. We're the same way. We all have rings of our tree. You still have the 1 year old you inside of you. Every one of your listeners still has the 5 year old. You can cry like a baby. You can feel helpless. You still have the 14-year-old ring, rebellious, think you know everything, but no, you don't know anything. The imposter roots. We all have those rings of the tree. Now, what people try to do, employers in particular, healthcare providers also, they want to cut the tree in half, dig out the drought, rainy, adverse childhood experiences years, and glue the tree back together. Well, if you know anything about trees, that would be a very bad idea. And the same is true with people. It doesn't work. The present ring, the present Ivan, the present you that's listening, your viewers, your people right here, right now, you want to learn as much as you can to be the present ring so you can care about and heal and resolve the 14-year-old ring, the 5-year-old you, the 2-year-old you, the 20-year-old you. So you're not going to get rid of the drought rainy years. You're not going to get rid of the traumas, the stress, the difficult things, but you can heal and resolve them. And that's what the app that Dr. Folletti and I built, the Enlighten.me app, is all about. 2-minute techniques that help you immediate and long term. So employers get it for their employees. And yes, there's a huge increase in the bottom line because a positive work culture is money. There's a big ROI from helping your people feel better, deal with their issues. It's very positive. You never feel worse before you feel better. There's no digging down into the worst. No, you're utilizing all of your life experiences to help you be the healthiest and happiest employee you can be. CEOs bring it into their companies and see their valuation of their company increase 10 times from taking care of the people this way. And of course, the people show up for work more, they're happier, they're getting along with each other more, they're more compassionate, more friendly, they're better team players, because basically companies are people. And when you invest in people, in their health and happiness, you are investing in your company. That's why companies are getting the app for all their employees, because really they're getting it for the ROI, but they're also, because they care, they're getting it for the quality of life and even the longevity, because you live longer when you resolve these things. 19 years is what our study showed. That's a lot of life to either lose or gain. And quality of life really matters a lot, because that's the person showing up and not showing up, being helpful to their coworkers or not helpful. And so that's the reason employers care about it, is really for the outer, the ROI, but also for the inner, because the people are their company.
Brian, but healing from a trauma, does it mean being able to acknowledge that something happened that was important and we didn't express? Or is it more about emotions that we should have got back then and we didn't express, and that we maybe in the present we should express in order to heal, to feel better? Is it about labeling or is it about feeling?
It's very good point, Ivan. It's really about both, in the sense that when you answer the 12 ACE questions, the adverse childhood experiences question, there's also an adverse adult experiences, because not all traumas happen as kids. A lot of them happen as adults, like loss of a job, a divorce, all kinds of things can cause traumas. But the question you're asking is, awareness is the first step, where you have to become aware of that ring of the tree, that rainy drought, that traumatic experience emotionally as well as factually. Then the awareness has to go into acceptance, where you have to actually accept, yes, that actually happened to me. And yes, that's impacting me on a daily basis. I keep people away. I compete with people when I don't need to. I lose my temper quicker than anybody could. So you have to have the acceptance of the impact at the time and years and decades later, because it's still affecting you if it's unresolved. And of course, as you were asking at the beginning about the inner judge is going to judge ourselves, judge the people that traumatized us, judge the trauma itself. Why did that have to happen to me? Why did that impact me so much? Why can't I just get over it? That was 20 years ago, 10 years ago. Why can't I just move on? Because everybody tells me I should just move on. So you have to actually work with that inner judge. And as a result of your awareness, your acceptance, your expressing, then you can get to your inner wisdom, the present ring. Then you can get to being the 100% you. And that's exactly the problem I solve. And that's exactly the outcome I deliver, is people get stuck. They hit a plateau at work. They hit a wall. Why aren't I happier? Why aren't I doing better? Why aren't I feeling better? Why am I struggling with an autoimmune problem? Why am I struggling with cardiovascular issues? Why am I struggling with physical, emotional, psychological issues? People have to deal with those things, and that is so available. In fact, Ivan, it's much easier to deal with these things than it is to not deal with these things. Because when you not deal with them, they get stronger and stronger. When you deal with them, they get less and you feel freer. So it's a very easy fork in the road. You know what? I'm going to deal with this. And you start feeling better right away. Or, oh no, I never dealt with it. I'm not going to deal with it. I don't want to bring that up. You keep feeling worse and things get worse. And it's really a very simple decision. Do you want to feel alive, or do you want to feel numb and feel like, the end is coming soon? Your choice. You have the ultimate power, the power of choice.
Brian, this is what you're saying is quite powerful, because you mentioned something that I didn't think about it at the right moment, is this feeling of, so healing from a trauma is almost like just about deciding that if what you are today is bringing you happiness, that should be the only performance indicator that you have healed from a trauma. If the behaviors that you have, the mindset that you have today are bringing you happiness, you don't give a shit about how other people has dealt with that. And you made me think about a discussion that I had not so long time ago, 2 weeks ago, with one of my business partners. And I remember that I didn't like his patronizing uh, tone of voice. So I told him, I'm not going to take shit with you. I cannot,
Mhm.
I left corporates 8 years ago because, and he knew that I left it because of a burnout. And he put it in front of me, the fact that yeah, you haven't been able to heal your trauma of being a burnout. And at that moment it shocked me. But then my behavior of saying no to that type of behaviors made me happy, made me proud of myself, because now I'm not
Mhm.
accepting when it's pushing me to my limits or it's hurting me. Um, so my question to you is, it does it mean, because I feel happy that on the way that I say no, and before I wasn't able to say no, uh,
Mhm.
am I dealing with my
It's a
trauma
it's a
correctly?
very very good example, Ivan. And what you're bringing up is something that most people don't understand. You have outer resilience. I'm not going to take that shit anymore. I'm not going to let people run me over. I'm not going to have people act this way and really mean something. I'm going to stop it. That's outer resilience. Very good. And what most people miss is the inner resilience, the emotional resilience, the physical, biological, genetic resilience. There's two. There's I'm dealing with that better. I'm so proud of myself. That's so
Mm,
cool. And what about on the inside? Well, I still feel like it still gives me that same stomach ache. It brings back the burnout in my head. And I got to make sure I do something about that. So people have to deal with the inner and the outer, not either or. An example of this is from the ACE study. A lady who became a federal judge had an ACE score of 10. So she had a Jaguar, a beautiful house, a federal judge, outer resilience with 10 ACEs, which means she went through every trauma, drama, difficulty a kid can possibly go through before she was even 15. On the inside, she had three different cancers, an autoimmune illness, an addiction, depressed, anxiety. So her outer resilience was amazing. Anybody would look at her and go, wow, she's
mm,
dealt with her trauma. She's an amazing human being. And that would be true. However, inside, physically, emotionally, psychologically, she was still unresolved, unhealed, and it was manifesting in very serious medical problems. So there's outer resilience, which you are describing with that coworker, and there's inner resilience, which is what's going on inside of you. And those two don't go together. They're
mm,
two separate areas of healing and growing as a person. And people need to rewire the negative circuitry on the outside and the inside. So a person can be high performing, CEO, owner, federal judge, you know, partner on the outside, and everybody's wow, that person's come so far. And on the inside, we have no idea what's happening with people, but we usually, especially after answering the assessment questions, and there's also a positive assessment as well, because not all traumas and dramas and difficulties are in people's lives. There's also positive childhood experiences, 12-question assessment. There's 12 positive adult experiences assessment. So there's positives too, but it's inner and outer, Ivan, not just outer resilience. Yes.
I get it. So if I understood correctly, so you have this self-assessment that is available in your website in truesage.com, so that we people can go and try it and get to know a little bit themselves better, right?
Better than ever before. People oftentimes say, I didn't even know that was affecting me. I've never been asked that question before. I actually thought I was going to take it to the grave. And there's so much relief that just from answering the questions and then going to the treatment solutions in the app. And, we have 16 books about this. The newest one coming out is called From Trauma to Enlightenment from Dr. Fleddy and I. And people can say, well, how do you go from drama, trauma, childhood stress? I was, come from a country that was in a war. I come from a family that there was always fighting, there was drinking. How can somebody go from drama, trauma, stress to enlightenment? That doesn't seem possible. However, what we learned traveling around the world, working with people from 80 different countries and learning from people all over is that we define enlightenment very different from anybody else. And we define it as unconditional acceptance of yourself. When you learn how, these are skills, it's not an on off switch where you can just do it. You actually have to learn the skills that are in the app, in the books, of unconditional self acceptance. Because what that means is all the rings of the tree, all the ages and stages, all of the abuse, all of the neglect, all of your emotions from anger to fear to resentment, all of those, even unconditional acceptance. And this is very difficult for people, usually takes months to get this right, but worth it, is unconditional acceptance of that inner judge, that imposter, that inner critic. That is gold in life. That makes a world of difference to people. Even if it takes months to learn, most people never do it. And they've been struggling with it for years and decades. So that is a breakthrough experience for people to be able to get to that kind of unconditional acceptance. And once you learn how to do this for yourself, it's much easier to be with other people because you're more understanding, you're more compassionate, you're more friendly, you're more caring. And it's deep, it's heartfelt, it's wholehearted. You can feel it. It's not just, I need to practice that mantra. I need to remember that, phrase. I need to do what I learned in that session, the coaching. No. It's inside of you. It's now who you are. You are your inner wisdom. You are your true, authentic self. You still are all those other rings. Those are parts of you, but they're parts of you. And you are the total whole you now, which is very freeing to people inside and out. And it's all achievable. It's all within reach. Your inner doctor is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You just know how to collaborate. You have to learn how to collaborate and trust your inner doctor, your inner wisdom. And that awareness you asked about, that's part of it, as is acceptance. Yes, all of them, Ivan.
That there is all very often the confusion, including for myself, that enlightenment, it means just external wisdom, understanding the outer signals, and not very often, even though it is implied that you it's about also the knowledge of yourself, but you don't think about it. You're always thinking about wisdom is understanding signals that others cannot see. You see somebody called Brian, what can you learn, extract from Brian in order to become a better person? But I'm not looking at it from my inner perspective. I'm looking from the external
Exactly.
perspective. Crazy.
And I didn't always know this. Dr. Fleddy and I didn't always know this, but on a trip to India to teach meditators and yoga teachers how to go deeper into their meditation and yoga, which was very surprising for a person, myself, from California, from the US, being invited to do that. But I had written one of my books, which was very popular in many languages, called Self-Hypnosis. Now it's called All Self-Hypnosis is Self-Hypnosis. And we were teaching people, meditators, yoga teachers, how to go deeper. But I wanted to know exactly what you're saying, Ivan. I wanted to know if anybody was really enlightened. Is there a guru that's always present, always in the zone? Nothing bothers them, nothing throws them off. Yeah, they're always okay with everything. And so I really wanted to meet somebody that was like that. And I didn't And I took a couple of trips there and taught everywhere and learned a lot. Wonderful women, wonderful men, wonderful workshops, really helpful. And the last person I spoke to said to me exactly what you're bringing up, Ivan. Well, what do you think enlightenment is? What you're looking for, and you're saying nobody's really enlightened. I said, exactly what we just talked about. Above it all, always in the moment, always in the zone, able to go with the flow, able to do everything. And he said, no, enlightenment is unconditional self acceptance. And I thought, oh my goodness gracious, I've been teaching that. My first 12 books were about that. All of my courses, everything's about. I changed the name in that moment to the app, and we named it Enlightened because I didn't want to call it Enlightenment because I knew people would think what I thought. So I shortened it to a very cute sort of spelling, ENLIGHTN.me, because that's what the app teaches is from your adversities, traumas, difficulties, you can experience what the true definition is, which is that unconditional self-acceptance, not what I thought, which was ethereal, transcendent, always above it all. No, that's not real. We all have family, we have friends, we have health, we have life, we have challenges. It's how effective are we at adapting, going with the flow, and really consistently going deep. And when in doubt, go deeper into that acceptance state, mind, body, heart, and soul.
Mm. Brian, you have been mentioning already 2 times something about an app. What is this app?
Right.
Tell me.
So the app is what we built after 30 years of research and development. And we wanted a science-based, clinically proven, simple app called Enlighten, where people could go take all the assessments from the adverse childhood, adverse adult, positive child, positive adult, get all the stress, get all the assessments out, and then have a custom tailored approach to learn the fundamentals, what to do when you're in an SOS, don't know what to do, but learn the techniques through proven approaches that can help people get to the root causes, because you have to get to the root cause in very compassionate, caring, supportive ways, and then be able to integrate this self-care of unconditional self-acceptance into their daily lives. So we have it in an app. It's in the App Store. It's on Google Play. It's available to all the companies and all the universities, all the healthcare providers. It's available to everybody. And it's the only app that gets to the root cause and then delivers skills that help people cope in their daily lives to feel more effective, more happy, to your point, more healthy inside and out.
Okay, that's good. I need to try that app. I'm now
Yes.
I'm curious about it. Um,
Yes.
so we,
Yeah.
myself and many others have gone into this area of reading thousands of books from self-help gurus. And that's a very,
Right.
very good question. What is incredible, Brian, about me is that I like them. I fall in love a little bit with the self-help guru for a while, and then I find something that I don't like, and then it breaks all my dreams. Even people who are most of the time, how to say, correct, then they add something, they say something that doesn't match my beliefs. I'm thinking about this German guy, Eckhart Tolle, for
Yeah.
instance.
Yeah.
It just came to my mind.
Right.
Everything
Right.
is correct about mindfulness, about the understanding of ego and other stuff, and suddenly he starts talking about quantum physics, and then that doesn't match anymore my set of beliefs.
Right.
That I mean, both exist but separately for me.
Right.
So, in your case, what you're saying is that what I have observed, in fact, is that we are failing because to help people in terms of their chronic self-doubt, because self-doubt, because we are trying to fix it at the conscious level. This positive thinking, while
Right.
maybe the real problem, on what I have learned from you, it might be in the unconscious mind. Is
Exactly.
that correct?
Yes. Yes. And the unconscious mind is where your inner doctor is, your true, authentic self, spontaneous, in the moment, can't be programmed, doesn't have any mantras or affirmations. Your unconscious mind is the innermost you, and everybody has a conscious, just like everybody has a subconscious and everybody has a conscious. And Eckhart, who's teaching people how to be more in the now, very good lessons. However, if you don't resolve the root cause in your subconscious, it's going to be impossible to do that on a daily basis. Whether you can explain it through physics or neurochemistry, however you explain it, the conscious mind is the part of us that's focused on our bodies, our relationships, our our health. It's our everyday self, and that's a very important part of all of us. A lot of people spend all their time in their conscious mind. And how am I? How am I? You can tell when somebody's in their conscious mind all the time because they use the word I a lot. We
Hmm.
kind of say they have an I problem. I this, I that, I this, I is how I feel. Here's what I think. I. Okay. That's people who have a conscious mind. We all do. You just don't want to get stuck there. Then there's people who have their subconscious mind, which is basically, think of it as the basement where the conscious mind puts the stuff it doesn't want to deal with, doesn't know how to deal with. So it pushes it into the subconscious mind, kind of the junkyard. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to think about that. That was too difficult. I'm going to push it down. But of course, anything you push down comes back up. So most people spend most of their lives bouncing back and forth between their conscious and subconscious. Here's what I feel, here's what I think, all of that. I don't want to feel that. I don't want to think that. Goes to the subconscious. Subconscious holds it for an hour or a day, whatever, it comes back up, goes back to the conscious. And most people are juggling back and forth. Now, what we're talking about is people tapping into and connecting with their unconscious, their inner wisdom, their inner doctor that understands we have a subconscious, a critic, an imposter, a judge, understands we have a focus on our bodies, our relationships, our emotions, all of that's the rings of the tree. We accept that. And we're developing our unconscious, our inner wisdom, our inner doctor more. So basically, Ivan, most people, let's say 95% of people, are dominant conscious, subconscious. Here's what I feel, here's what I think, all push down. Oh, I don't want to feel that. I don't want to think that. Here, back and forth, back and forth. Probably a very small percentage are learning how to be unconsciously dominant, spontaneous, creative, in the moment. And this is what Tully's kind of get people to, but you can't get rid of the subconscious and conscious.
Hmm.
Rings of the tree, lifetime memberships. It's the whole you, the total you, the whole tree. You're not just that one ring. And so you really have to be accepting and deal with and resolve everything that's going on with you on an as needed basis. The great news is this science backed, evidence based skills that you can learn in minutes that can help you help yourself, because ultimately you're going to find your best answers inside yourself. You can
Hmm.
travel the four corners of the earth, and I've done that. And ultimately, you'll find the best answers inside yourself. Now, you want to go through all that and try everything like you were talking about so you can get to exactly where you're at, Ivan, is figuring out, well, what are my best answers for myself? Because you're not going to get it from him or them or her. You're going to get it from your own inner doctor, your own inner wisdom. That's where your genius is. And it's always available. You just
Hmm.
have to know how to get out of your own way to be able to get to it.
Hmm. Talking about the way to practice a little bit more of consciousness or self-knowledge. I think I have read somewhere that you have a specific three-step method, something like experience, judge, and resolve. If a listener is sitting at their desk right now, feeling paralyzed by an email or a critical comment, how can we? Is it possible already to explain these three steps in just in 60 seconds to regain this confidence, to follow this method, experience, judge, and resolve?
Definitely. Well, I created a 10-minute unconscious reset for you and all of your listeners that they can get for free. They can just contact me on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram, wherever they go. And they just say in the note to me, unconscious, and I will know what they're looking for. They can mention Ivan, they can mention your podcast. I will know where they got the link, and I will send them a 10-minute unconscious connection to be unconditionally accepting of their conscious and subconscious. The exact techniques, very simple, very direct, available to everybody. They'll be able to do it in 6 seconds. It may take 10 minutes to learn. They'll be able to do it in 6 seconds on an as needed basis.
Oh, that's beautiful and generous. I'm going to write it below this episode so that people can access uh, the well. First of all, your website through Sage, some of your books, this access to the assessment, the app link, and how to get this on free accessible resource for unconscious. That would be wonderful.
I saw how generous you are in your podcast. I watched a lot of your podcasts. I went on Apple. I gave you a 5-star rating. I gave you some feedback. I love how you make complicated things simple. So I encourage other people to do the same as I did. And I saw how generous you are, Ivan. So I decided, what can I do to be as generous with your community as you are? And that's how I came up with this technique that I've recorded that is available right now.
Brian, behind every generosity, there is always a selfish reason. I want to be fed by knowledge of people like you. I want to be able to understand the world better because the whole reason why this growth hacking culture podcast exists is because I want to learn. And this is my famous big MBA course, interviewing people that have different type of knowledge, different perspectives that can open up a little bit more my mind, and hopefully it's also something that is helpful for others. And that's the main reason, Brian. I
I
have a
love
last
it.
question, Brian.
Yes.
Um, if there is one thing we could stop doing today that feeds our inner judge, and one thing we could start doing to feed our true sage, what
Mm-hmm.
would these things be?
Very simply stated, it's the opposite of what you've been doing up until this moment. There is no way you're going to stop it. You actually want to learn how to free it. Do the opposite. There's no way you're going to get rid of it or stop it. You're going to express it, free it, give it a voice, allow it, talk with it, have a dialogue, develop a relationship, a friendship, develop some trust, develop a collaboration. So basically, what I would say, Ivan, is everything you've been doing, do the opposite.
Exactly. That is bloody true. That is bloody true. Brian, it was really nice, enlightening to discuss with you. I mean, it's almost 10 o'clock here in Switzerland, but I would tell you, I feel so awake with so many
Mm-hmm.
thoughts about what you just said. Wonderful to spend time with you. So, if I understand correctly, we need, people can reach you out directly into your LinkedIn profile. I'm going to put the
Right.
link below this episode. There is a lot of resources in the website truesage.com. There is your books that can help a lot to understand because I like this idea that you haven't been doing that just on your own, but you have been collaborating with others and traveling around the world because, man, there is a wealth of things with this world.
So true, Ivan. I call it the university of life, where we can learn from people and we learn from everybody. You think you've heard everything, you haven't. Every person is so unique and has their own story and their own trying to feel better and cope, and they can share what didn't work, what did work. We have learned so much. We have boxes and boxes of videos because we video all these interviews with people telling us their stories and what helped, and like I said, what didn't help, because we learned a lot from that. And we have so many boxes of videos, of recordings of people, because everybody is so different. I feel like everybody's our teacher. Everybody can teach us something to be healthier, be
Mm.
happier. And so our approach is to look up to your fellow person, is to understand them. And Dr. Felitti and I are innately curious people, just like you, Ivan. And we are open to learning from everybody. We're students as well as teachers. Definitely.
That is true. Thank you, Brian, so much for your time. It was really lovely to spend this episode with you.
Thank you, Ivan.